Everyone would like to get ahead with their riding, right? But they really don't. Well, that was interesting. I think I was a little bit frozen there. So my name's Laura, and our guest today is Patrick Malone. Hi, Patrick. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Patrick is from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and has been involved in the equestrian community his entire life, being brought up through the Canadian Pony Club. Certified competition coach with a strong emphasis on developing skills with the rider to achieve their goals. He began riding in horse trials and then switched over to the hunters, and now it has included developing a breeding program to his equine endeavors. His business includes buying horses, retraining, and selling, as well as the development of young performance horses. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you.
Well, welcome to Equestrian Skill Builders. If you'd like to improve your riding and training, win more ribbons at your next horse show, or generally like other horsey-related stuff, then you are in the right place, because we talk about all those things and bring information from equestrians for equestrians. And my name is Laura Kelland-May. I empower riders to go from no direction with the riding to feeling confident, in control, and in harmony with the horse, so they can go to a competition and enjoy their horse. I'm a competition coach specialist, high performance trained, Equestrian Canada senior judge and steward, and as a live show producer, I can help you create a successful weekly broadcast. So there are easy ways to improve your riding, right? You've got your riding exercises, dressage, training exercises, jumping, schooling, riding exercises. But the 5 things we're going to talk about today are easy, and they may be overlooked by the average equestrian. So are you ready to get started talking about this, Patrick?
Yep.
Ready to go? You ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay, so let's talk about mindset, the mindset of a rider. That to me is one of the things that people really don't think about, is what's going on in their brain. So what do you have to share about us, about mindset? You do a lot of teaching, you teach different places. What are some things about the mindset that you have found about mindset? I know what I'd like to say about it, but what do you have to say about it? Putting you on the hot spot here.
I'd have to say the biggest thing I hear from students is the I can't, or I can't do that exercise.
I can't.
I mean, they don't even want to try it. You have to fail to succeed, right? So you have to try the exercise in order to improve it. So, and that really affects the performance when they try to do the exercise, because they've already got the mentality that they can't perform it.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree with you on that. The I can't mentality. I don't know. Well, I guess I do know. I know if we were riding and our instructor heard us say, I can't do that. What did your teacher used to make you do? Anything?
Drop your stirrups, 10 laps of no stirrups, or ride with no stirrups at the canter, or jump with no reins, but I mean, I don't use the words I can't when I was riding back then.
I know that too. I remember showing somebody how to put the saddle on, and they said, well, I can't, or adjust the stirrups. I can't adjust my stirrups. And I'm thinking, really? You can't? Now, why can't you? Why can't you adjust your stirrups? Like, that's what I'd like to know. But they've already got this flavor in their brain that they can't do that. So Jessica says, good morning. Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for putting in the comments. Yes, another one is that they blame the horse. I totally agree with that, Jessica, that they totally... okay, so having the mindset that you already have developed that you can't do something, that's one of the mindset. The other one that I get to or see is that riders are being reactive with the riding rather than being proactive with the riding. So they are waiting for something to happen and then fixing it rather than riding and making good things happen. Do you understand what I mean about that?
Yeah,
Patrick?
I also think that the I can't also refers to that the horse can't do it. There are riders that think that their horse can't do it, but I mean, you're riding a green horse. I think every horse has the potential, if it's properly trained, to do all these things. It's just how you're training it. So I think it's a mentality both of the rider and of, having expectations of what your horse can do. So I think it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, so I think we were talking about this the other day, and you mentioned saying that about reading a book or explaining a book to somebody about, and I think that kind of goes to what you're saying here, that the horse can't do it. So you help me explain that, about what you said about that.
Well, it's like reading a novel to your horse, or explaining a novel to somebody. If you start at chapter 1 and you skip chapter 2, 3, and 4 and go to 5, well, there's miscommunication within that with your horse. And it's like telling your horse to do one thing and skipping the building blocks in between, and you're going to miss part of the book. So I think everything, and to me, is related to, it's all in how you communicate and deliver these things to your horse. So I like to think it's like reading a book. You start at chapter 1 and you have to complete chapter 2 to get to chapter 3.
Yes, exactly. So we get a little feedback there. So we exactly. I think you're such a great way to explain it. How do you expect the horse to know what's going on in chapter 9 if you haven't done chapter 5, 6, and 7? So that's exactly right. I would like to say, if anybody has any questions or comments, or would like to comment on what we're talking about, we'd like to have some interaction on here. We'd love to hear from you and your comments about mindset. Right now, we do have some other things that we'd like to talk about. So Allison says, morning from Nova Scotia, previous bad experience. I'm not sure what you're thinking about. Is that your mindset is based on a previous bad experience, that you can't do something because of a previous bad experience, or what? If you could expound on that a little bit, Allison, that would be wonderful. So so love that. Really like the way that you explain that. And same sort of idea is if you're going to write a test, an exam, and if you haven't covered all the chapters in the textbook and you go to write that test, then you probably are feeling anxious about it and unable to perform it. So one reason why your horse can't perform it is because you haven't done the homework to get it to the point where it can do the homework. Right? Okay, Allison says yes. So your mindset's based on a previous bad performance. So if that happens to you, I think that one thing you have to do is get some mindset retraining with respect to that. Okay, so if anybody has any other comments about your mindset, now how do you change your mindset? So how do you change that mindset from I can't to I can, or I will, I'll do it, I'll try it? I think a lot of people are so concerned about having it be perfect that they're afraid to try. So you have to have a little bit of leeway with yourself of getting that little bit better each time rather than having it be perfect. So being perfect is not always the best thing, but trying and learning and developing yourself so that you do focus on becoming a little bit better each time rather than being perfect all the time. That's one reason. Don't be so concerned about having it be perfect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, Laura, you gave me this nugget. What's in the brain goes through the rain. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, that's true. What's in your brain goes straight. The horse really, well, sometimes can read, not really maybe read your mind, but it certainly can read your body language. That's a good one. Thank you for reminding me about that, Jessica. Really like that you're getting involved in that. Oh, look at this. We have Emma here. You change the mindset with practice and training. It's taken me a while as I have a habit of wanting everything to be perfect right away. Exactly, Emma. That's exactly what we're talking about, is being perfect right away. It doesn't really need to be perfect right away, but if you get that little bit more, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, that's one of the other items that we have. Thank you, Emma, for commenting. So let's go on to number 2. And this is we're kind of building up. Start with I can't, and then we go to number 2. And I think you touched on this, Patrick, is that you start small and build habits along the way, like you said about reading that book. So this is kind of another fork on that rung, is that you start small and build lifelong habits of lifelong good habits and discipline. Okay, so we have Lindy here, who says, I struggle with confidence due to feeling inferior, specifically at shows. I don't have a fancy place, fancy warm bloods, expensive tack, though I know none of that really matters. It's still an ongoing struggle. Yeah, but you know what, Lindy, you've got the horses and you know what you're doing. And there's a lot of people who would like to be in your position with having the horses that you have. So it's you should have more confidence. I don't know what to say about that because you have so much experience.
And I don't think it matters what kind of horse you have, fancy, not fancy, a quarter horse, a warm blood. We're all caught up on, we want to buy all these fancy warm bloods, but there's lots of horses can do a lot of the same things. Again, it's how you train the horse and the mindset you're going to do and what kind of program you're going to do. I mean, you go back 25, 30 years, fancy warm bloods really weren't in the picture. They were riding thoroughbreds and they were still jumping those big fences. I mean, they still had to put the same training into that same horse. So, I mean, and a lot of people can't ride those fancy warm bloods. It's more of a prestige thing. So you don't have to have the best of the best to do the same things.
I agree. You don't have to have the best of the best to be a competent, thinking, sensitive rider and bring your horse along to the best that it can be. You can have a fancy horse and a fancy tack and all that stuff, but still not be able to ride and perform. I guess that's what you're getting at, eh, Patrick? Is that you don't need all that.
Like I think every horse has potential. It depends on how you bring the potential out and your mindset for it. Do you have a goal? Are you setting goals? Are you delivering the novel to your horse with the chapters so that there's clear communication? I mean, just because somebody has a thoroughbred doesn't mean that it can't do collected canter or it can't, jump a 3'9" oxer. I mean, it's all in your training.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, so let's go on to number 2. Thank you. And if you do have comments, we really like to see them here. It's so interesting to see all the comments that we're getting. Small and build lifelong habits and discipline. And you mentioned that, Patrick, about having your training program. So it may be too much to do a whole month without stirrups, that no stirrup November thing. So try to build a lifelong habit of riding 5 minutes at the beginning of your ride without stirrups to build on that. So have the discipline to do that for a little while and then build on that. So what is one thing that riders can do, you think, Patrick, to start small and build a lifelong habit of doing? I'm saying just instead of doing a whole month of without stirrups, do 5 minutes each ride without stirrups. What's something that you could think?
Well, I think the first thing in preparation is before you ride or get on is to have a plan. The plan can't be just to go in the ring and just go in a big old circle. I mean, there's a zero benefit to doing that. It's bored and your horse gets ring sour. And, there's so many things you can do in a really good 20 or 25-minute ride if you have a plan.
And it's not like that there's no access to any information. I mean, you could put that in Google and have a 20-minute ride at your fingertips.
Well, I spent the winter with a plan with my horse, and it was basically I did no jumping. I don't need to. The horse did flat work, and it shows and has paid off. But I'm not going to go in the ring and just say, wing it and try to, figure out what I'm going to do. There's always things to work on. You're the one that's developing the horse. If you don't have a plan for that horse, then you're never going to get the result, and you're not going to have the mindset for it because you haven't had a plan in the beginning. That's the problem. Nowadays, nobody has a goal. Nobody writes things down. Nobody has exercises they do. There's so many things you can do with poles. There's so many things you can do with cavalettes. You don't have to jump a 3-foot fence all the time. There's everything in between those fences that people need to brush up and work on and tackle those things. And that's going to give you the mindset to get to that goal at the end of in chapter 10, right?
Yeah.
But
so
we can't skip.
Exactly right. And we have this from Jessica, who says, growing up in Kentucky, we were taught that you treat every single horse like they're running the Derby. Doesn't matter if it's the old nag on the hill, you treat them like gold and you'll get gold. That's excellent. I really like that, Jessica, because you treat the horse properly. And actually, that's one of the things that we're going to talk about later also here is that you treat them well and train them well. And I like what you say, Patrick, that there's so much stuff in between the jumps that people have to work on so that they can get to the jumps. It's not just the jumping. It's all the stuff in between so that you can get to the jumps. Lindy says, totally shows Patrick, your horse looks amazing. Yeah, he does. Laura has an awesome training writing journal that's been so helpful to have a plan. Oh, aren't you sweet, Lindy? Thank you so much. I kind of put that on the back shelf, but I did develop it and I'm still working on it. And if you're interested in that, send me an email and we'll put you on the list to again. Okay, so I'm back. So Patrick, if that happens and I get frozen, just keep talking because I guess our internet's kind of acting up today. So, but getting back to this success and riding discipline, I like where you say have a plan. That's so important about having a plan because success just doesn't come by just wanting it. You have to have a plan. If you know you're here, if you're here and you want to get to this point, you have to know what you need to do in between there to get to that point. So if you're walking, trotting, cantering, and you want to do a 2'9" hunter course is the end point, you have to be able to take that course and break it down into all its component parts and work on all those things so that you can put it together when you get to that horse show. It's not just doing a course after course after course after course after course, right?
Yeah. And I think the other big thing that people don't take into consideration when putting together a plan, horse and rider, treating them separately, is fitness. You can't have a goal and be riding your horse that you don't really have, goals for and expect that it can go and jump that with those courses if it's not fit. I mean, the flat work and all that stuff is so important. It's the, jumping those sticks in between is nothing. But I mean, fitness too, fitness for a rider and fitness, we're athletes, right? Our horses are athletes. We have to build the right muscles. If you want your horse to be able to lengthen and shorten, they can't lengthen and shorten if they're not fit. It takes a lot of work. So the expectations, right, I think, have to be set for fitness too.
Yeah, and I think if you're riding in a regular program throughout the 3, 4, 5 times a week, then your fitness kind of comes along with that. And there has to be different types of fitness too. Like you say, the lengthening and shortening to develop the longitudinal suppleness, the lateral suppleness, and the lateral strengthening and pushing and all those muscles that the horse needs for jumping. But I like where you say about getting to the jumps. I mean, if you don't have those simple but important exercises of putting the horse together and lengthening that stride control, then you will not be able to get to the jumps properly. And that's really important.
And then I think the I can't factor comes into play. You don't have a fit horse. You try to jump the jump. It doesn't go the way you want it to go. You know, there's an I can't there. There is an I can't. Your horse is not fit to jump it properly. It's not jumping it correctly. You're not doing it any benefit. You got to do your flat work. Flat with exercises, not around an entire arena for
It's
50
so
laps.
boring. Yeah, exactly. So, Lindy, thank you so much for these comments. Really like this. Don't underestimate the importance of the walk. We're doing a lot of walking to condition. It's amazing how much they can learn at a walk, bending, laterals, adjustability, and suppling. We work on all of those while hacking. So important. I really like that. You know, a few years ago, I did a whole winter of walking, just walking, hacking on the road because it was cold and icy and lots of traffic. And so we spent the better part of the winter, and I didn't have an indoor arena. So we spent the better part of the winter just walking, hacking 5 kilometers 4 times a week. When May hit, the horses were fit. And it was really great because they had the winter off, but walking. And when it was time to get to work, they were ready to go. But you know, ready to go, but they needed faster work to you know, get their wind up and that type of thing. So I also like where you say, Patrick, don't be aimless with your riding. Have a goal for this ride. So you have a long-term goal for the end game, but you also have a point for this ride, and that helps with your discipline too. So this ride, maybe I'm going to work on transitions to develop the longitudinal suppleness of my horse. So, you know, don't do 3 transitions. Go on a circle and work 3 transitions on a circle, right? So if your goal is to improve your transitions, they don't have to be perfect, but, you know, make them a little bit better each time. Do you have a kind of an idea for each ride when you put your foot in the stirrup, Patrick?
Yeah, every single ride. I either have something I'm going to work on. It could be myself. It could be the horse. I could have an exercise in mind. You know, I think every ride that I've done, I'm doing a little bit of hacking now because of the nicer weather, which it's, you know, interval training. It's great for the horse. It's a different mindset, gets you out of the ring. And, you know, it could be a mixture of walking most of it or trotting up a hill, or, I mean, I have a fit horse. I'm not looking to, you know, fitness is great on my end. I'm just looking to change things up and do different things and develop different muscles too, right? So I think even just desensitizing your horse and getting them used to different things. If you're going to you're going to be showing for a season, and your horse gets out and looks at things, I mean, it's totally changes their mindset, you know, of how reactive they can be, and they learn to accept things. So people need to do a lot more things in the riding rather than going around. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do, and if you don't know the answers, then reach out to somebody who can give you some pointers.
Right. So on that, reaching out, Patrick, do you have? You're on Facebook, and would you mind if people reached out to you on Facebook if they?
Sure.
Yep. So you can reach out to Patrick on Facebook, and I'm just going to go to your Facebook page and find out and put the link here. There you are, and okay, so you're got a little bit. I'm just going to put that in the comments so people can see that. And if they want to get in contact with you, they're welcome to do that. Also, if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can go to the Equestrian Skill Builders website, Facebook page. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put that also in the comments. So if you want to contact me, there goes my mouse. Great. Okay.
I think I'd like to point out too, the goal also has to come from a coach. not just
Yeah,
from a
I was going
rider.
to try to contact on that too. Is that
You
work
know,
with your trainer on these things as well,
your
right?
goal, your coach is the one working with you. Your coach should be at helping you achieve your goals and setting some of your goals, because they're the ones that are working with you. And if they don't have a plan, and they don't have a plan in the lesson where you're working on something, then you're not going to be able to get to the next level.
That's true. That your yearly training program, your program that your coach has set up with you should be also something that you should be working towards, right? So that is something that you work with your coach. Okay, there we go. You can also send me an email. Okay, excellent. This broadcast is sponsored by Equestrian Skill Builders. The link is in the comments if you'd like to like that page on Facebook. You can become a thinking rider. You'll progress faster, ride effectively, and be extraordinary. So I've got a free mini course called Say Goodbye to Bad Rides. Being understood by your horse just got easier. And I'm going to put the link in the comments if you're interested in that. We'd love to see you on that course. And my mouse has just run out of battery. So there we go. Okay. So here's we're going on to number 3 now. Do not compare yourself to others around you. And I think with the social media the way it is, this is a difficult one because we see on Instagram and Facebook all these beautiful pictures. But you know what? You have to be in your own and consider where you are with your riding and where your horse is, and just concern yourself with your own progress rather than worrying about what everybody else is doing. What do you think about that, Patrick?
Totally agree. It's we all learn at different learning capabilities. Like, you go to school, some of us struggle, some of us are quicker, some of us grasp faster. We all have different abilities to achieve goals, and we all go at the pace that you should go at. You should also, if you're riding with other people, let's say we'll use a lesson for an example. You should be riding with people that are at the same level, so that you're developing the same skills together, that you're not feeling like you're being either held back or pushed forward too fast, which is really going to change somebody's capability to get to the goal. Because again, it's hard to ride with different people that ride at different levels. So riding with like-minded people that learn maybe at the same level, or you're at the same level and you're all riding at the same level, is the best. And if you ride by yourself, you're your own person. You may have a different horse than somebody, right? It all kind of plays in a part.
And they may have different goals than you. Like maybe they
Sure.
want to do the equitation, you want to do a hunter or jumper, or they are working on something different. Or they got a different horse or a green horse or that type of thing. I mean, and it can even be something as simple as if you're riding and training your horse and then you think that your horse has had enough and it's done, but your friend that you're working with wants to keep going because they are working on something different. Don't think that you have to push further or complete or keep riding the same way that they're riding. It's totally different. So if you think that 30 minutes is good for your horse, great. If you think that 60 minutes is what you need to do, then that's fine too. So there's always going to be someone better than you. So don't worry about it. Just concern on what your goal is for that particular ride and aim towards that goal. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so now we're going on to number 4. Be consistent. Being consistent is better than being perfect every time. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, be consistent in your training, consistent on how you're training, consistent in how you're delivering. You know, at the end of the day, you have to be, I like to say this, you're communicating with your horse. So you've got to be consistent in the communication. You can't be telling your horse, 5 different ways to do something. It's clear. It's got to be clear.
Each time the same way.
Yeah, you have to be, and the only way you're gonna, use fitness as an example is if you're consistent with how you're developing the fitness. You can't go away for a month and come back and expect that you can, start back at the point where maybe you left off. So you got to be consistent with how you left it off. We all love to jump. You can't just jump. There's no consistency with just jumping. Their horse only has so many jumps in them.
Right. I think that's true. I like to say being consistent is better than perfect. So that as far as judging, let's say judging an equitation or a hunter run goes, if you get consistently to 8 jumps, it's far better than having 2 super jumps and 2 okay jumps and then missing like the other ones. So being consistent at your jumps. I mean, I kind of liken it to that, but I really like where you say you be consistent. If it's 3 times a week, riding 3 times a week, it's perfect. And also your aids for each consistent, like nailing it, drilling down for each time that you ride, you're consistent with the way you ask the horse to move forward each time. You're consistent with the way you ask a horse to bend each time. You're consistent with the way you do things each time so that the horse understands that, this may be the canter lead or whatever your aids are.
And also, good training is allowed to feel bad.
Okay.
You jump a jump, it might feel bad, but there might be really good parts of it that were correct. You have to kind of break it down. Like, not everything feels wonderful, right? But there's good things about something that you're doing. Maybe, coming to that pole, you were able to keep your horse straight, but you felt something and you thought, well, that was terrible. Well, there's good things in training that do feel bad. Not every jump probably feels great, but there's good things about it. My horse stayed forward.
You said that at the very beginning of the program. You have to fail to move forward.
Yeah.
Fail to improve or something like that. Yeah. So you have to know, but you have to understand what it is that doesn't feel good so that you can improve it. And you have to be able to know that it is feeling bad, that it is bad.
Yeah.
So we have this from Dr. Aaron Kelly. Thank you, Aaron, so much for putting in this comment. Love this show so much. I learned something with each episode. Thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate you saying that. That's great. And if you have any friends that you think that should be watching this, please share the link with them. Okay. I can hear that you're texting, Patrick.
I am.
Which moves us right into number 5. Be generous with your time with your horse. And I think you touched on this before, but to me, this means put down the phone. Patrick, put down the phone. And avoid distractions with your horse. Pay attention to your horse and actually feel and listen what is happening. Something that gets me is that when you are riding or you see people riding, and they're riding past in the arena, for example, and as they go by the open door, the horse kind of looks out the door and people get angry with the horse for doing that. But yet they are the riders, when somebody asks them a question, or if the rider goes by the open door or the window, they look out to see what's happening. So they chastise the horse for looking out, but they don't think that they don't chastise themselves for looking out to see what's going on. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yep.
Okay,
and
so
you should not be riding with your phone.
Exactly.
You should be putting your phone down.
Okay, so in a hunter ride, and I have a line that's supposed to be a 5, but we are very comfortable with a 6. Why should I obviously move forward for a 5 and look ugly than ride what I have? Okay. This is a little bit beyond what we're talking about today. Excellent question, Julie. So this is about your specifically hunter riding. 5-foot stride is how many feet, Patrick? For people who don't know.
72.
So if you are riding on a 12-foot stride, you should get 5 strides in there. If your horse is unable to do a 12-foot stride, then you would be putting 6 in there. So if you are at a rated show, an A show, a gold show, or a show that is lots of points with prize money, if you don't get the correct number of striding in there, then you are not going to place. Correct?
Correct. I mean, it's I kind of just trying to understand the question too. I mean,
I think what she's saying
she
is
doesn't want it to look ugly, so she wants to keep it as a quiet. She's more
6.
comfortable with adding.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know the horse or anything, but maybe you could develop the horse in the flat work and getting it to lengthen and shorten a little bit better, or it depends on what training you have. It also depends how big your horse is and what stride your horse has. It's very hard. I mean, if you're going to the hunter ring to go and get exposure and you don't really care about adding and you're comfortable with that, and at the end of the day you've gone into the ring and had a goal and got around, then great. But in the competition world, you're right, Laura, you have to get the striding that's set out.
Well, I know that if I were judging this horse and if there were 30 people in the class and 20 of them got the 5 in there and the other one's got the 6 in there, the people who did the 5 comfortably would be placing above people who did the 6 comfortably. Yeah. Having said that, if the reason why they say a 12-foot stride is because a 12-foot stride's a normal stride length for a quality type of horse. So if your horse cannot make a 12-foot stride, then it is considered maybe a lesser quality. So that's how judges and course designers, how I feel judges and course designers kind of weed out the horses of lesser quality because they have a shorter stride. I'm not saying your horse isn't a quality horse. What I'm saying is it's a standard that they make a 12-foot stride for horses so that they can have the larger, taller horses with longer strides can make it comfortably. Having said that, if it were a non-rated show or let's say a C show and your horse did 6 in a 72-foot line and 5 in a 60 line and it looked okay and it was a great quality horse and jumped nicely, then I would say great. It's okay.
But I do think if you have a horse that does ride on a 12-foot stride and you are doing the 6 because you want to do the 6, I think you need to change your program.
Exactly. That's it. So if you are underpaced, then that's a different story. So we're getting into a training thing here. So what I'd like for you to do, Julie, is to send me an email with a little video so that we can see the horse. And I'll just put my email up here. Pardon me, so that you can see it and copy that down. Emma says, if you add in one line, you have to add in every other line. That's true, Emma. And if you do that, but if you are at an A show or a championship, you're going to be SOL, because this is how the judges and course designers kind of weed out the horses that are going underpaced and also are not of good quality. But that's true. If you do a 5 in a 6 in a 72-foot line and a 5 in a 60 line, but then again, that means you're going to put 2 strides in a 24-foot if you are doing a combination, and that's kind of dangerous. So I'd be careful with that, Emma. Do the correct number of stridings in between the jumps that you are offered, and the distances between the jumps should be posted on the course plan.
And this could be part of your goal in training is working with adjustability, right? Adjusting the canter, riding a 72, riding a 69, riding a 60, and then riding a 55, making your horse adjustable. And that's all part of your training that you can go in the ring. If you've got that horse with a 12-foot stride, in the back in the day, they rode the hunters more forward. Now we're riding them a little bit too quiet, and that's maybe why they're under pace. Like Laura said, they have to be riding that stride. There has to be clear across the board for everybody what they're judging, and they can't, you can't make exceptions. You might have had a stellar round adding in riding a 6s, but you really don't fit what the judge is looking for.
Exactly. So the other thing, I like where you say to get your stride adjustability, to be able to ride your 60-foot line, or 55 feet if you're whatever you're doing, 60-foot line, be able to do it in 4 strides, and then doing it in 5 strides, and then see how many strides you can get in there, and go back and do it in your 4 strides. So that's one way that you can tell if your horse is adjustable or not. Okay, so let's get back into it. That's a really good question, Julie, and I really appreciate that. And the answer to your question is, why should I obviously move forward for the 5 and look ugly than ride what I have? The reason depends on what you want to get done. If you want to have a nice quiet ride and you're taking a young horse out or a green horse out and you want them to have a quiet ride and be successful, then yeah, sure. You know what? I would go for the 6 strides and make it easy for you and for your horse. If you are trying to get to the championship and win the championship or go to the finals, then I think that you are going to be disappointed if you put your 6 in there and just be disappointed that you didn't get a ribbon or place. Does that answer your question, Julie? Okay, so being generous with your time with your horse and focusing on your horse. So you mentioned, we're just getting back on track here, about riding with your phone. Have you seen people riding with their phone?
Oh yeah, and then it drops in the sand, and then they go, "Oh my God, my phone fell! I need to pick it up."
That was me last week, right? You did that. You were so mad. Yeah, Patrick and I were riding last week, and I said, "Oh crap!" And he goes, "What? What happened?" I said, "I dropped my phone." Oh my gosh, he was. You were so mad.
Well, I mean, it's like driving, right? You don't text and drive, right? Unless you Bluetooth. But I mean, how can you pay attention? And it's a safety factor too, right? What happens if you're texting or you're on the phone and you only have one hand and your horse books and bolts? I mean,
right.
You're not paying attention, right? So I mean, we've got the 30 minutes or 40 minutes that you're riding your horse. I'm pretty sure you can put your phone down.
Yeah, true. I like that. Okay, so Julie says he's a young horse, and thanks so much. You're welcome, Julie. Really appreciate that. So for those of you who don't know, see that it has the YouTube thing. So this Julie's on my YouTube channel watching. Thank you, Julie, for that. Same with Aaron, and the other people are on Facebook. Okay, so here's the other thing is that you have to remember there will be shitty days. There will be days that feel like crap. There's those, one step forward, 2 step backwards, or 1 step backwards, 2 step forwards, whatever that saying is. So, contact your trainer or someone to help you, and they should be able to design a program for you or get you going where you want to go. So
I
What
also
else?
just add in, Laura, I also like
Yep.
to tell students or people I talk to that if you take a lesson, at the end of the lesson, you should walk out of that lesson and say, I learned something new today, or I fixed something today, or we progressed on something today. And if you can't answer that question, when you leave your lesson, you need to revisit.
Right. Exactly. So, and they should give you some homework to do, right? They should be able to say to you, well,
Absolutely.
between now and next week, you should be working on transitions. Here's an exercise, easy exercise. You should be working on your lateral suppleness. Here's an easy exercise that you can do. If you have any questions, ask me type thing, right? So these are the things that you need to make sure that are happening between your lessons. If you don't have that, or if you're not getting that from your coach, ask them. Don't be afraid to to ask them that question, that you can, because that's what you're paying for. You're paying for their expertise and you're paying for their input with your riding.
And yeah, you know, be observant. If you feel like you're doing an exercise and you're not ready for it, or your horse isn't ready for it, you should speak up. I mean, my thing I do with students is I ask. I'm going to put the fence up. I say, are you comfortable? I don't want to put anybody in a situation where they're not comfortable, and I do not want to force somebody to do something. It's not what it's about. So, you are the student, you're the paying person. You ask questions or get your parents to ask questions and observe. And if you find an exercise is too complicated or too hard, then speak up, right? Because again, it's going to change your mindset. All goes back to the beginning.
Right. And I want to also uh, remind people that keeping a journal is also a really good way to keep track of what's happening. And I am making up this journal. I think I gave one to you too, Patrick, right? And a couple
Yeah.
other people are out there that. So yeah, keeping a journal, and it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It can be a simple loose leaf scribbler from the dollar store. Just keep track of what you worked on, though, and that's a great way to, if you are keeping track, to say, oh, you know what, I went on a hack 2 days ago, and today my horse's feet are sore. I wonder if maybe he picked up a stone or did something on the hack, or I jumped last week, last ride I jumped, and now my horse is bulging to the left. So you can keep track of what's happening with your horse and understand what it is that you're doing and where you want to go. Also, it's a great way to plan out your rides. Flat, 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 lateral suppleness, longitudinal suppleness, all these types of things to write out your exercises. Okay, so if there's any other questions, I would really like to see them here. Really enjoyed talking with you today, Patrick.
Yes.
And any other words that you'd like to share?
Take control of your riding. Ask questions. Reach out to people. Be knowledgeable. Have a plan.
Everything what we said.
Everything. Do good stuff in your lessons. If you're not having fun, change it. Maybe, and again, it's the other thing too is we all work differently with different people. There's not, some coaches don't deliver what may not work for you, but what might work for you. I think you have to kind of work with the person that works well with you and that understands you and understands your goals and gives you goals. And you need to walk out of that ride or that lesson with something conquered. It could be very simple. My horse went forward off the leg at the trot, or it leg yielded, or it started to bend, or, going around and not doing something. If you're riding, you should be doing something all the time. If you're just sitting there, you're not riding. You need to be doing something, because horses don't always go straight. So if you're going down the long side, and do something down that long side, right? Be proactive.
Right. That's great. Great final words. I'd like to also say that this podcast is sponsored by Equestrian Skill Builders. Become a thinking rider. You'll progress faster, ride effectively, and be extraordinary. Now, you can get my free mini course called Ride in Harmony. You can say goodbye to those bad rides, and being understood by your horse just got easier. I put the link in the comments here. And my final words are you can understand your horse, and now go use this stuff. Go use this stuff. Have some guts. Go use this stuff and go hug your horse. And we'll see you. See you next week. Thanks very much. See ya. Bye.
Yeah.